of Poker. And for today, we have a nice little webinar planned where we will talk about the early stages of an MTT. And yeah, we'll just give it a few seconds so everybody can arrive. Of course, I can just uh, repeat some things if there are some questions coming up during the webinar, but nevertheless, not every it's hard to be on time, to be punctual on this exact second. So let's just wait a few more seconds before I'll start. And yes, so if you have any questions, let me know. I can answer them in the best way possible for me. So yeah, just shoot them whenever you have them. Let me just quickly set some final things up. You already see the presentation. And yeah, so let's go. First, because this is like part of our welcome bonus we have right now, you can just enter the link below and follow the link to sign up for our course. Normally it costs 300 euros. As you see, we have 4 online lessons, some preflop charts, and 2 personal trainings with me. And usually that would cost 300 euros, but because I'm new coach here for the Academy of Poker, we are able to give you a little welcome gift for a limited amount of time. So this course will only cost you 99 euro right now. So if you like how I explain everything, and if you like my style of playing and want to improve your game, feel free to sign up and start being a winning player, be a profitable player as soon as possible. Today's agenda. So, as said, it's about the early stages of an MTT. We'll be going through different positions and how to play them. So, as you know about early, middle, late positions, as well as the blinds, we'll be talking of types of playing. So, different play styles, just as you probably know, the tight aggressive one, the loose aggressive one, and yeah, I'll show you some more and also explain you the pros and cons of these types and how do they bring you further or stop you from coming further in the early stages. Also, I'll show you some different types of tournaments and how to approach them. So talking about normal freeze out or rebuy tournaments. And yeah, I have prepared some types there. And the last thing, late registration. The early stage ends. Hi. The early stage ends. Yeah, hi Marcin. So the early, sorry again. The early stage ends when the late registration ends. So I will give you some feedback on if it's good or bad to late reg, if you want to start at the beginning or if you want to start like a second before it ends. Hi Alex, nice to see you. Hope you will like what you hear. And yeah, as said, so that's the agenda for today. And yeah, let's jump right into the positions. As you see, it's about how to play each position. And yeah, of course, we start with UTG and UTG plus 1 plus UTG plus 2. Those are the early positions. As you see, I marked them in different colors. The the early, middle, and late stage of the position, and as well as the blinds. And yeah, as UTG plus 1 and UTG plus 2, meaning under the gun, are the first positions to act pre-flop. They of course should have the tightest range and have the tightest openings. Yeah, I will come to that later, Marcin. Me personally, depends on which kind of tournament it is. And yeah, I will mention it later again, but now that you're asking, I can just tell it to you. For bounty tournaments, I want to register really early because the the positive thing you or the thing you want to have is to be the table chip leader, so you're covering everyone at the table, so you're always able to get everybody's bounty. And the later you register, the more unlikely it is that you will be the table chip leader, and therefore it should be better. But if it comes to, for example, rebuy tournaments or normal freeze out, it can be a good thing to late rec because normally at least like probably 50, 60, sometimes 70% of the field is already gone. And then you can go in with 20, with maybe 10, 15 big blinds. And if you know your preflop charts really well, like you know how to push and what to push and what to fold on specific positions, you can just play perfectly and you just need to double once in most of the tournaments and you're already in the money. It would save you a lot of time and yeah, like your personal RI will get a bit bigger because you make more money on the time invested. But now let's get back to the positions. So as you see in early position, as said, should be the tightest open positions. As said, there are a lot of players behind you. So if you open with, for example, a6 offsuit or something, just because it has an ace in it, there will be most of the times a lot of pressure on you. So there will be three bets or a lot of calls, and then you see some flop and a6 will not really work well on those flops. So it's really hard. And as said, you will face some hard decisions, and with weak holdings, they are even harder. If you know what to raise there, it's just easier. Most Yeah, I will also during the positions I will actually talk about that, but in general the thing is that yeah, a lot of people just overplay their hands a lot. So when you start a tournament, you sometimes have 150, 200 big blinds, and then you see a lot of people who just overplay their top pairs when they have king queen on king 7 3 or something like that, and they are never gonna fold it, and sometimes even push the turn all in for 5 times the pot. And yeah, you don't need to have 400 big blind pots with just top pair. There's a lot of the chat is delayed a bit. Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. I will still answer that, and if you have then another additional question, there's just shoot it at me. So yeah, as said, like a lot of people are overplaying the hand, and then uh, another thing to your question is that the different kinds of players have different kinds of mistakes. So if you keep during the stream, okay, 2 minutes, yeah, yeah, never mind. Hi, Eli, by the way. So yeah, if you just keep on listening, what about my webinar? Yeah, hi, Eli. Uh, you will just hear about the pros and cons and the most mistakes because it always depends on what kind of player type you are, the mistakes that are mostly done. So yeah, let's get back into this again. As you see, already talked about, yeah, you will have hard decisions to face, and you will be out of position a lot of times. Only if the small blind and big blind comes along, you're in position, and if you're out of position, you're lacking information. So you're first to act on the flop. You don't know what the range might be the opponent is going to call or called you with pre-flop, and then you have a flop where you did not hit, so you're not sure, should I continue because of my range? Should I fold? Should I check because of the range I should have here? And yeah, it's just really hard. Uh, no, the early stage is finishing at the end of the registration. So I think yeah, probably because of the delay, you're gonna hear it already. Yeah, for me, the early stage is when the registration is closed, and till the bubble, it's the middle, at least till the bubble, it's the middle stage. And I think late stage is probably only the last, even the last 10%, and then depends on the payouts if those 10% are already, if sometimes there's like 15% paid or so, but yeah, mostly if it's down to the last tables, then we have the late stage. Of course, it depends on how big the tournament is you're playing, but at least about the early stage, it ends when the registration is closed. So now, just to show you, that's like one of the charts. As you know, we offer in our course also some preflop charts, and this is some example I'll have for all positions. I have it shown here. So tight is right. Stick to that opening range, especially if you're a beginning player. Nah, you didn't miss a lot, Donald Algot. Especially when you're a beginner and you're unsure about some things, and when you, for example, if you open ace nine suited and you're not so sure what to do with that, there's a three bet. Just make it a bit tighter. But in general, as you see, this is the range. I also marked the different colors, so that should be the OTG range. This is all for 60 big blinds and plus, by the way. So deep stacked poker. And yeah, as you see, for if you use G+1, you can also put this in your range, and for UTG+2, those are the additional cards you can put in there. And in general, as you see, if I Queen Jack O, for example, a lot of people see two Broadway cards and they really think, oh, nice hand. Same goes for like stuff like 8-7 suited, 7-6 suited. Just don't go crazy with them. It's going to be really hard if you're facing a three bet, if you're facing maybe two or three callers from your raise, and there's a lot of flops that you will not like, and then it's hard to continue. And you can just make your life easier by sticking to the better hands here, so you know how to act on the flops that you will face. And yeah, then again, because of that tight opening range you should have there, you can show some aggression. So as I said, you should have pretty strong hands in early positions, so act like it. On a lot of flops, when there's some pretty random dry board, is it, for example, 8-5 deuce, or for example, you can continue quite a lot, at least versus one player. So okay, when you become a winning player, at least you will definitely be a better player, so you will make money in the long run. Of course, we cannot guarantee you that you will win the next 5 tournaments you're going to play, because there's something called variance, and nobody can know how the variance will be for you. So it could be good, it could be bad, but in the long run, your graph will definitely go up because you're going to make the right decisions. And as long as the decisions are right, so you're making plus EV plays, you can only win in the long run. So even if your aces lose to queens in some spot, it just happens 1 out of 5 times that you lose it. So the other 4 times you will win it, and your graph will also show that. So in this case, patience is the key word. Yeah, so far about the early position ranges. We will now continue with the middle positions. So yeah, in middle position, it's about using your position. Uh, as you see, cutoff and button will often act last on the flop, so you can gain some information from your opponents. Use that information and show a lot of aggression post flop when players in front of you show weakness, and steal the blinds. Let me quickly just a second. Just having a small. So, sorry for that. There was just a little bug here right now. So, yeah, we're back here. No, sorry, that's the wrong. Yeah, now it's good. Sorry. So sorry for that. Just a little mix up. Yeah, middle position. So loosen up, but be cautious. So they're not easy to play. It's easy. It's the likelihood of being raised from that position is lower, and playing the flop out of position will not happen as often. So that's a good thing. And also the playability of your hands increase because, as said, you will not have that big of a risk to face some bigger raises. Hi, Quavo. How long will the group lessons actually last? The group lessons are roughly an hour every time, so there's yeah 4 times an hour. Um, of course, could be plus minus 5 minutes, depends on how big the discussion is about some stuff or how many questions you have. But in general, it's roughly an hour in the evening. So yeah, playability of hands increases. So I said the risk of facing some not face, sorry. Yeah, exactly. So instead of UTG, where you will have a lot of players behind you in middle position, you're not facing that many players anymore. So your hands just getting better because there's already people that folded some hands. Here you can see in the some possible ranges from the middle position, uh, just to give you some idea on how it may look like. And you see the range is getting wider. We have middle position 1, middle position 2, and middle position 1 and middle position 2. And you can see that in middle position 1 you can even open like some suited kings then, and middle position 2 you can also go for some suited one gappers here like 8-6 and 7-5 suited. But just remember to be cautious. So when you're facing a 3-bet, depends on the opponent, you can either maybe even sometimes bluff, but that's something for players that already have some experience, I'd say. Or yeah, if the opponent is weak, you can then of course continue with some of those hands, but in general, especially if they do it from the cutoff or the button, still be cautious because you will be playing out of position, and then you should choose your stronger holdings for that. And now about the late position. So late position meaning cutoff and button. Uh, You can control the pots with your position. That's a big thing. As the button, you will be the last one to act pre post flop. So you can decide if you want to get a free turn card, for example, or if you want to give the opponent a free turn card, or yeah, if you want to c bet after you raise the flop or after you three bet pre-flop, for example. So you can be the aggressor most of the times, as most of the times don't lead into you when they're acting first. Like donk betting is not a big thing, and if people are donk betting, they're mostly not good players. So you can then reevaluate. And yeah, just as I talked about the position, you can use that position for bluffs pretty frequently. So especially when you're heads up with a big blind, with a small blind, there's just so many flops where the big blind's range should not hit. So if it's an ace-high flop, for example, a lot of times the big blind would raise that, and therefore it's pretty likely that the opponent will not have hit. So you can use that and try to steal the pot on the flop with a bet. And depending on the runout on turns and rivers, you can still have pretty good position or decisions in your favor to get the pot. Also, here use Hold'em Manager 2 and Poker Tracker 4, so they can help you to figure out the style of play, and yeah, they can facilitate your decisions. And yeah, here's again some short ranges from the cutoff and the button. And as you can see, the button has already a pretty wide range, and especially when you're 60 big blinds or deeper, you can just open pretty wide. And if you face some aggression from the blind stand, if you get 3-bet, there's, for example, you can sometimes choose, especially like suited aces, to maybe even 4-bet, depends on the statistics of your opponent. Therefore, Hold'em Manager 2 is just a pretty nice tool. High search, don't worry, don't worry. That's not a problem if you're being late if you because you already registered, you signed up, so you can see that my webinar just later when we uploaded it. So don't worry about that. About the UTG course, yeah. So as said, I can just quickly go back for that to show you that. So this is what the course includes. We have 4 online lessons. We will talk about the fundamentals of pre-flop strategy, poker math. I will show you about and I will show you about poker software, how that works and how you can find your leaks with that. And we will also do some hand analysis. So if you're in one of the group lessons, save some hands, play some poker online to save some hands, and then we can go through your hands together so I can show you your leaks. You will also get some pre-flop charts, and then you have the personal coachings. And now that you're asking, so it will either be me or Leo Don Leon, that's our other English-speaking coach. He's also awesome player and he knows a lot about poker. So if it's no matter in which hands you'll be at the end, you'll be in good hands. And the good thing is you're only paying 99 euro right now because I'm a quite new coach here, so we have this awesome welcome bonus, and you're gonna save 200 euros on that. But yeah, let's now go back to the last positions, the blinds. So when you're in the blinds, especially when you're deep stacked, because I'm talking about the early stages, so you'll always be deep stacked, you can defend just almost everything. I will show you the defending ranges in a bit. Uh, and yeah, you should defend just a lot, and you can just see a lot of flops. And as said earlier, as one of you already asked, a lot of people just overplay their hands. So, for example, if you defend 7-6 suited and the flop is King 7-6, you might get stacked from someone with Ace King because he's just not able to fold 200 big blinds when you raise. Like when you check raise the flop, continue on the turn, and a lot of people just can't give up that. So uh, it's always pretty nice to have like some sneaky two pair when you defend with 7-5 suited or 9-5, something like that. You can make a lot of chips. And then again, the re-steal is a big thing. So when the button will try to steal a lot, if you have some information on that through the holder manager, for example, you can just try to re-steal a lot. Of course, use playable hands for that, but you can do it from time to time. If it's like some suited ace, some small suited ace, for example, or king queen suited, which is of course a good hand, or sometimes even like king 5, king 6 suited, where you block some of the better hands of your opponent. So it's more unlikely that he has that. And yeah, you can then just try to re-steal if you can see it as said on the statistics from the opponent, and then go for that sometimes. If you're a beginner, of course, it feels maybe a bit hard to do that with a really weak holding, but after some time you get some reward on that because you see people just fold to that because they're opening the button because they know, oh, I should open the button because everybody does it. And then they're just surprised that people 3-bet you, and then they think, okay, they must have a good hand. So in the long run, you can just make money on that. And yes, for the small blind as well, just because when you cold call a lot in the small blind, you will always be out of position as the small blind is always the first one to act. So in this case, it's really better to be the aggressor. So if you have some hands like rather go for a 3-bet to be the pre-flop aggressor. Sometimes just even get it pre-flop if you do it a bit more light, like I said with like ace 4 suited, for example, or ace 5 suited. But at least you have the aggression. So there's a lot of flops, and if you 3-bet from the small blind, you should almost continue on all flops, just because you are the aggressor, so you can show enough aggression. And yeah, just get the pot right there. And again, then we have some s- more special thing, the relation between like small blind and big blind. So the strategy for the small blind should be like a good mix of limping and raising versus the big blind. And this mix can change. As you see, if the big blind is a real passive player, you can just raise more because if you face a three bet from him, you know he's gonna have a good hand. If the big blind is loose, you can limp more because he's gonna raise, attack that limp on the big blind a lot, and then you can set really nice traps. And if he then checks behind, you still have a pretty playable hand versus him. So, and there mostly the loose players are rather sticky. So, if you then hit a monster, maybe if, for example, if you limp aces or kings, and the flop is 7 high, and he gets some part of it with 10-7 or so, you will just get a lot of chips from him, just because he's really sticky and he's not able to fold that easy. Then again, be disciplined. So small blind is a really hard position to play with medium hands. As said, you're always out of position, so you're always the first one to do something, and therefore, if you have not that good of a hand, as said, like rather go for sometimes for the light three bet to at least be the aggressor than to cold call a lot and then don't know what to do. As a big blind, however, you should not overplay your hands in multiple pots. You will get to see a lot of pots, especially when there's some limp pots where you get three-way, four-way, five-way in with 10-6, 10-5, and stuff like that. And if you then hit top pair, you should be really cautious. As said, if you're four-way, five-way, the possibility of someone having a really good hand that he might trapped or having some medium hand that is still ahead of you, in this case, Jack 10, Queen 10, this is a lot of times this is a hand that is that is limped a lot. So be really cautious. And as you see, you will see a lot of flips, a lot of flops defending wide, but be careful and always have the opponent's range in mind. For example, especially when there's a lot of limping, you should then mark this person and always write down what he was limping in that case. Sometimes people only limp if they have monsters. In other times, people just limp their complete range just because they want to see some flops. So yeah, be careful in that. Eli, Marcus, can you tell us what is cold call? Yeah, a cold call is when somebody raises and you call that raise without acting first. So as an example, if middle position opens and you're in the cutoff and just call that raise, then it's a cold call because you had no action so far and you're not you're not aggressive in your own way, you're just like continuing the current action. So you're not raising, but you're calling that raise, so that would be a cold call in this case. And yeah, now as said, some ranges. So in here, like some defend ranges from small blind and big blind. In this case, I choose some middle position open raise because a lot of times it comes from the middle position. I think that's in this case a good example. And yeah, as I said, there should be a mixed strategy versus middle position where you sometimes can three bet bluff. As I said, this kind of hands, baby aces or some Broadway cards. And yeah, you see the big blind's defending range is pretty wide here. So as I said, you want to see a lot of flops. The reason why you should not, for example, you should fold those hands here is that the weaker the aces are getting or the kings are getting, if you then hit your top pair, the middle position has a lot of aces and kings in their range as well. So you might be in second place at the moment if you hit your king, and then it's really hard to continue. If they have king queen, if they have ace king, and you hit your ace or hit your king, you're just far behind. And with those bigger bigger kings, the likelihood isn't that big. So because here you cover all of those kings then, and if you're giving king three offsuit, the possibility of people having king 4, king 5, king 6 is just higher, and then you're in a bad spot. And yeah, now as said, we have the small blind versus big blind range here. So this is out of the side of the small blind, and you can see what the small blind should raise here, um, what he should limp fold to a raise and limp call to a raise. So a lot of times you see those really weak, rather weak holdings, you can at least limp. And as I said, depends on the big blind. So if you know that he's passive, you can even raise those things. And if you know he's really active, you can maybe even sometimes fold them pre-flop because you just know he's gonna raise you, and then you can at least save half a big blind. And yeah, then again, as you see, most of the suited hands, just because of the more equity they have, and of course also all the aces and most of the kings, just because if you hit them, if you're going heads up versus the blind, it's not that likely that he has you dominated in some way. So now to the next part, it's the types of playing. And as you see, we have four different types here. We have the calling station, we have the rock, we have the loose aggressive player, short leg, and the tag, which is tight aggressive. And yeah, how do we like find out what types of playing there are? So first, it's about the starting hands. What kinds of hands does he play? And the betting pattern. So how often, how much does he bet? And as a rule of thumb, you can see here a player who plays the top 40% of the starting hands is rather loose, and somebody who only plays 50% of his starting hands is more tight player. And for the betting pattern, it's what does a betting pattern even mean to start with? So it's the relationship between betting and raising to calling. So you adjust the number of bets and raises of an opponent and put them in relation to the number of his calls. And yeah, really quickly, the formula is, as I said, the number of bets and the number of raises. Um, there's you sorry, you take the number of bets plus the number of raises and you divide them by the number of calls. And if the opponent bets or raises twice as often as he calls, he's playing aggressive. And if the opponent bets or raises less often than if he sorry, if the opponent bets or raises less often than he calls, he's playing passively. And yeah, as said, those are the four different types of playing. And now I will just go for them and tell you about the types and the pros and the cons. So as the rock, uh, I think you can get the picture of what the rock means. He's really solid. He doesn't move a lot, so he's not that active. And as you see, the pros of him, he has like a limitation on good starting hand, so he's not gonna play a lot. He's probably even narrower than the ranges we give you because he just plays really premium hands. And yeah, therefore he's going to reduce his losses because he's not going to play a lot and he's only playing the premiums. And in general, he should win only playing those. And as well, it's a good strategy if there's a lot of aggressive players on the table because you don't have to do anything really. As you said, they will take care of the betting and the bluffing. So you just sit there and call and call and call. And yeah, you will get a lot of chips in most cases. And yeah, as I said, so the Rock gets action without even having to bet by himself. It's gonna be rather easy if a maniac, if there's an aggressive player, the Rock can just call down because those aggressive players will try to get you out of the hand. Then the negative part, of course, is that you miss out on maximum profits from good hands. So if you're narrowing your range, for example, if you're not opening ace jack suited from UTG because you're a rock, you're just gonna lose money by not winning that money because in this case ace jack suited would be an open race and in the long run it will make you money. So if you miss out on that, you're just not gonna make money, which is the same as losing money. And you give the opponent the chance to draw him out if there's a dangerous board. So as I said, like here, if there's a risk that an opponent can complete his flush or his straight, a rock will a lot of times not show the aggression needed to make the pot big or make it expensive for the opponent to continue. And Therefore, it's like almost the same thing. He does not protect his strong hands well enough. So yeah, he can have some problems there because he can a lot of times rocks just let people get there, complete their straights, complete their flushes, and yeah, still not folding at the end because they have a good hand, so why should they be behind? Second up is the calling station, and this is pretty self-explanatory. Let me quickly talking a lot. Yeah. So the calling station. It's it's a good thing in this regard that if many aggressive players sit at the same table, they can just take care of the betting and you just sit there and call. And against tight and passive players, you can just make profit by having high implied odds, meaning if they're not if because they are pretty passive, they're not going to bet a lot, and if you have as said, which is the negative side of the rock, you will just get pretty good prices to complete your flushes, complete your straights, even if it's only a gut shot or whatever. You just get a pretty good price to call, and then you can make some chips there. And the cons, as said, like also as the rock, you're missing out on so much profit from your strong hands because you're playing them too passively, and you're also not protecting your hands against draws enough. And the third thing is you just play too many weak hands. So there's a constant risk of holding the second best hand. So the calling station likes to limp a lot, get to see the flop pretty cheap, and then try it out with 9-6 suited, Jack 8 suited, and stuff like this. So even if you hit top pair, you're gonna be behind so many times. But then again, as the picture shows, go ahead and bet. They're just not gonna fold, so they're gonna lose a lot of chips there. Then we have the tag, the tight aggressive player, and this is mostly the good, like the best way to play. Uh, you only play good starting hands, you have your ranges, like our ranges we will provide you when you sign up here. And it's going to limit your losses and it simplifies the game because you just know what to do. You know what to open in UTG, you know what to 4-bet if you get a 3-bet, you know what to fold if you get 3-betted, and yeah, it's just going to be rather easy for you to play. And then again, it's a good mix because attack can either win by holding the better hand or by making the opponent fold because he plays aggressively. The negative sides is that due to the tight playing style that the ranges become easily readable, so you have to adjust a little bit here, especially when you have good opponents. If you're in the micro stakes, there will not be that many good opponents, and your holder manager will help you to see those good opponents because mostly it doesn't take a lot of hands to see if somebody plays good or not. And yeah, versus that opponents, you can then adjust it a little bit, and that's what tight aggressive player can do. And you have a pretty high risk to lose a lot when you're holding a strong but not that strong hand. Because then if you're playing versus a rock, for example, and yeah, you're being aggressive, but he's just not going to fold, and then you can lose a lot of chips. And yeah, finally we have the loose aggressive player. He's playing many different starting hands, so it's really hard to read what he's having. He's going to open a lot of things. If he is opening Queen 9 suited, 6-5 suited from UTG, that's just what they do. It's not in a lot of like it wouldn't be in a normal opening range, but yeah, they just like to play a lot. And also their image can help them because sometimes they will have a good holding, but just people don't believe them because they're thinking, oh, it's gonna bluff anyway. He's a loose aggressive player. So it's a pretty good strategy in that regard that you can win with the best hand or you can make your opponent fold because you show the aggression. And finally, before I answer your question, Donald, the negative side is that you have to be able to know when you're beat and when to fold your hand, because otherwise you will lose a lot of money with this strategy. Like if you're showing aggression and you have loose holdings, but then you get raised, for example, sometimes you just have to give it up, even though it's annoying and you think he might be bluffing as well, but it's really hard then. And before I come to this, let me ask Donald for that. Can you tell how many tournaments should I play to know my actual ROI? Yeah, it depends on what you are playing actually. So the rule of thumb there is to play roughly 3 times the number of like you have to you have to have 3 times the tournaments than the average field size you are playing. So for example, if you're only playing the 180 multi-table sit and goes, then you should have at least, yeah, roughly 500 tournaments to see your ROI. Because if you win, for example, you win a tournament with 7,000 players, it's not going to show your real ROI because you have played the tournament one time. So in this case, you should have played that tournament regarding to the rule of thumb, like roughly 20,000 times, just to see the real ROI in those tournaments you're having. So yeah, just you can write that down, have like roughly 3 times the amount of your average field size. You can see your average field size by looking at, yeah, what at the statistics. You can have Shark Scope for that, or even Hold'em Manager. You can see how many people are in the tournaments, and yeah, then you can see how many tournaments you should play. You can even see tournament by tournament. So as said, if you play the 180s already 500 times, then you can see your RI on that. And if you play also the 90 men as multi-table sit and goes, there you only need roughly 250 to 300, and then you can see what you are having there. But now let's continue with the last two. Yeah, Tom Dwan, he's a good example for that, I think. And finally here we have, yeah, some more exotic types that should not be in the online poker that much. It happens. And yeah, the first one is the nit. It's I took this picture because a lot of times those guys are older people who started playing in the 70s where a three bet was just if somebody three betted you, it was aces. That was the case in the 70s and 80s. So he's gonna play really, really few of his starting hands, and as you see, a lot of rocks and tight aggressive player sometimes maybe nits because they're playing too few hands. And yeah, if he calls you, you can mostly assume he has a really strong hand. So yeah, they're a bit like the rocks, but like even with narrower ranges. So if that guy or that girl will three bet you once, you can even fold kings mostly because they're gonna have aces. And yeah, then we have the maniac, which is the crazy version of the loose aggressive player. So he's very loose, very aggressive, and against the maniac, you should really try to avoid tilt because sometimes they're just gonna barrel through you and you have to stay calm because they might get there with 9-5 on the river versus your aces or whatever. Happened to me in live tournaments as well. I had one guy, he busted me in 2 tournaments where he rivered me for a huge pot with 4-5 offsuit and with 7-3 offsuit or what it was. And yeah, you just have to stay calm because in the long run, he will lose all his chips either to you or to other players at the table. And yeah, really try to pick your spots versus him because he's going to get crazy and it's going to be tough to play versus him. And here you can even, if you want, you can take a small screenshot of this because this will just is giving you a nice little overview of what I just talked about. And yeah, feel free to do a screenshot and I will just give you like 10 seconds or so to take the screenshot here before I continue. Okay, so yeah, I mean we're gonna upload that video anyway, so if you need it later, you can just take it from our website then. But yeah, let's go to the next point, and we are more than halfway through already, so we'll probably stick with the 1 hour today. Different types of tournaments. As you see, I just have yeah, most of the common known ones. I took mostly the ones that are available on PokerStars, and as you see, it's freeze out, rebuy, bounty, win the button, ante only, time, s- tournaments, satellites, and shootout. So about the freeze outs, you have one stack to play. Right now, it's more and more common or more and more popular to have re-entry tournaments. So they are, yeah, like a multi freeze out. So you can enter, but you're gonna get into another table most of the times when you re-enter. So it's not like the rebuy where you sit at the same table. Um, yeah, but for freeze out, if you're out, you're out. So as said, if you're in early stages, and we're talking about early stages, you have 200 big blinds. There's just no need to risk 200 big blinds with only top pair. Um, it's just so unnecessary. So play small ball, play small pots. If you want to play big pots, just have it. As said, if you're playing versus a maniac or some loose aggressive player, if you flop a set, you can just let him barrel because he's gonna do it, and you can already increase your stack by quite a lot. And yeah, the only difference in freeze outs would be between normal, regular speed tournaments, turbo tournaments, and hyper turbo tournaments. Because especially for hyper turbo tournaments, you mostly have 3, 4, 5, maybe 3 or 4 minutes uh, level uh, levels. So you really need to, like, the early stage is only going to last for half an hour maybe. So you need to try to make chips at the beginning, and then when the registration is over, the average stack is going to be maybe 10, maybe 15 big blinds, so it's going to be hard. So you can be a bit more aggressive there at the beginning, and maybe even there try to take a flip if it's okay, or if for example, if you have ace king or queens and kings, you can really try to get for a bigger stack. As said, the average stack size will not be that big in hyper turbos, so yeah, and the more chips you have, the more pressure you can put on other opponents, and yeah, that's really nice. For the rebuy, you have for a specific amount of time. In this, let's take it as an example, an hour. You have enter stacks to rebuy, so you can, if you want to, of course, it should be your goal to not use one rebuy throughout the whole tournament, but if it happens that you lose aces 10 times in the first hour, you can just rebuy all again. You get the same place at the same table and get new chips. Also, at the end of the registration, or after even some minutes after the registration, there's an add-on where you can mostly increase your stack by even a bit more for the same amount of money. So in rebuy tournaments, it happens a lot that you have looser players, because especially people that may have a good bank or even a deeper bankroll than they need, they can put pressure on some people. If they know they're not good players, they will try that because they might be afraid to rebuy. They might only take 1 or 2 bullets, but they want to play the tournament because they think, yeah, it's a good tournament. There's a lot of money to be won, and I can just use one bullet while other players will be in there 4, 5, 6 times. Uh, but my suggestion is just take it easy, and of course, if there are spots, take them, but until then, just play it loose, play it easy and tight, and try to survive to make it to the add-on. Because after the add-on, you will be at least around 20, 25, sometimes 30 big blinds, and then it's again a pretty nice amount to play with. So there's no need to have 100 big blinds because after the add-on phase, it's gonna take you a long time anyway. So for the beginning, as said, if you're a looser player, you can put on some pressure on players where you think might not be able to rebuy that much. If you have some information on them, even better. Uh, and if you see they're not regulars, they might be a bit cautious because they don't want to rebuy 5, 6 times. So yeah, you can put pressure on them. And now, yeah, like the currently I think most popular kind of tournament, bounty tournaments. If you bust someone out, you will get an amount of money for that. So, for example, if it's an $11 bounty tournaments, those are mostly played, or there's a lot of them, you just get 250 directly into your pocket, and you get $2.50 added to your bounty. So you can increase your bounty and you can win always the half of the current bounty from that player already into your bank account. So it's really good to make chips early to be the table chip leader. I already talked about that earlier in this webinar. So it's really good because if you cover everyone, there's always a chance that you will get the bounty when you are all in versus him. If you're the person with fewer chips, you can just not gain anything. And the bounties are a pretty big thing, especially in the later stages. In the early stages, as said, like it will only be 1/4 roughly of the buy-in amount. But yeah, there's a lot of loose plays for bounties, and yeah, I had situations where there were two, three people all in, and I was the table chip leader, so I covered them. And then you even get sometimes you get even good odds for paying really loose. Like I had one thing where I called probably like 30, 40 big blinds in a four-way pot with Jack 9 suited or so, just because there were already some bounties on the top. So sometimes it really makes sense for that. And yeah, bounty tournaments are really popular, and you can have a lot of really interesting situations there. Then another one, it's not played that much, but they're still offered, and I think they're also a pretty nice variant to play. It's win the button. So you win the pot, you get the button on the next hand. So there's a lot of aggressive plays to get the button in the next hand and to have position on the players. Also, if you're on the button, you're not gonna have to pay any blinds because you will not be in the small or big blind. You will just pay the ante and that's it. So in this case, for example, if you're more the tight player and you have somebody directly right to you or second next to you on the right side, and they are really active and really aggressive, you're gonna have to pay the blind almost every hand. So this is pretty annoying, and therefore you should adjust to that. Like if they're the two people next to you, right next to you, are aggressive, you have to be a bit more aggressive too, because if you always have to pay the blind and if you have to to pay the blinds like 8 out of 10 times, you just it's going to be so hard for you to make any money. So yeah, if they're raising, be a bit more aggressive to try to make enough chips, and yeah, use even some smaller some smaller spots to just not to not pay the blinds in the next hand, because it will lose you a lot of chips. And in the early stages, it's really hard. If you pay the blinds almost every time, it's going to be hard because gonna have random two cards every time. You can be lucky and have some good cards, of course, but the average hand will not be good, so you have to fold a lot, and then you're going to pay the blinds again, and it's like a vicious circle. Yeah, then we have another more kind of exotic variant, anti-only. It's now played for short deck poker a lot, but we also have that for normal no limit hold'em. So, for example, on PokerStars, the small and big blind, it's always just 5 chips. You still start with 1.5k, but the ante is gonna be in play every hand, and it's gonna be a pretty huge ante. So it already starts with like 20 or 30, and yeah, at the end the pot is always going to be really huge because everybody's gonna have to pay a really big ante. So it's really good to play aggressive here. At the beginning, you can be a bit laid back because, of course, the ante is not going to be that big. But if you never play any hand, and the thing is, that's a pretty important tip from my side. You should at least limp every hand in ante only tournaments. You just have to pay 5 chips, and probably your ante is like 20, but in this case, if you have 10 players at the table, 20 is the ante. There's 200 in the pot, plus 5 and 5 from the blind, so there's 210 in the pot, and you should always limp every hand because you just have to put in 5 chips, and if you put it in comparison, you put in 5 chips to win 215 if you're first to act, so you get more than 40 to 1. Of course, that's why aggressiveness is like key in here. and it's really hard to find the perfect amounts because normally you're used to, yeah, I'm gonna do two big blinds, two and a half big blinds, but then yeah, you have to look what the current pot is because of the ante and adjust your raises according to that. So yeah, there are some really interesting situations sometimes because the flop just goes 6, 7 ways because everybody is in the hand some way, and then you have some really funny constellations sometimes. Um, yeah, and the next one, it's already the third last, the time tournaments. So they only go for a specific time, sometimes 15, 25 minutes, sometimes even an hour or so. So if you survive, you're gonna make money. And if you're still in the tournament after 50 minutes, it's just gonna end, and you get the amount of money that your chips are worth right now according to the complete pot. So if the time is short, like if it's only a 15-minute time tournament, the tournament is just gonna last for three or four levels, depending on the level time. And therefore, you're just gonna have to play 15, 20 hands sometimes maybe. So try to be aggressive and here take one or two kind of good spots, like even if they're close, take them, make some chips, and then you're gonna survive and make money in those things. And yeah, those are the last two. Satellites, always really interesting ones because the prize pool is equally gave to an amount of players. So, for example, 9 players all receive some tickets for a tournament they want to qualify for. So, uh, early stages, it really makes sense to show some aggression to not be in the need. So yeah, that's for the tournaments. And now the last part would be to about late registrations. I was already asked earlier in the stream what I think about it, and me personally, I kind of like to do it. There was a time where I just late racked every tournament almost to the max, just because it saved so much time. I was playing really big sessions, had sometimes close to 100 tournaments I was playing, so it was easier for me to just jump in at the end of the early stage to just just have 10 15 big blinds. I knew what to push, I knew what not to push, so then I would just double up, make the money in an instant. And yeah, was my RI there was pretty good because I knew what to push and what not to push. And yeah, if you then double up once, maybe even twice because you get a good spot, your current, instead of having 10, 15 big blinds, you're sitting on 50, 60 big blinds and having a pretty nice spot on making a deep run. So, as said, the good thing is you're going to save time because if you're not starting the first minute but late registering at after 2 hours, you just save 2 hours of your time. So you can go to the gym, you can go out with your dogs, you can spend time with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend, whatever you want to do. And yeah, you can still play that tournament and probably have the same stack size you may have anyway after 2 hours because sometimes you may even be bust out already. So yeah, you already have like 60, 70% of the players behind you and you just registered while the others already lost their chips. And as said, because you're pretty short then it's going to be easy to play for you. If you have 12, 13 big blinds, you have our ranges, our charts to see what to push and what not to push. So you just stick to that. So and then you're just gonna make the money, just gonna make money in the long run because you're just shoving and playing in the right way. Oh, there was some disconnect. I hope everything is fine. Okay, I think I think it should be fine. We're online, all good. Okay, so just really quickly, before we lose the connection again. Yeah, as I said, it's easier to play for you, and as said, you're closer to the money. So you just have to double up once, and then you're probably already gonna be in the money. So even if you then only min cash, you're still cashing, which is really, really nice. Yeah, but then again, the negative thing is that you're missing out on value from bad players because a lot of times, let's be honest, the bad players are already gone, or most of the real bad players are already gone if you late reg because they started from the first minute because they want to play, they want to get their money's worth, and yeah, they're already bust out, so it's going to be a bit hard for you to get money from them. And then again, what is really good that it's easy to play on the other side, you're a bit limited because you can only push or fold most of the times. It's going to be hard to put maybe some light three bet there because you just not have the chips for that. But yeah, everybody has to see if they have. I think the most important thing is if they have the time or not. So you have to decide if that's the case. And finally, uh, before I end my course, just want to show you again our really nice welcome offer that will save you 200 euros for the complete course. We will give you 4 online lessons where we talk about the basics of poker math. We will show you some fundamentals of preflop strategy. I will work with poker software with you, show you Hold'em Manager and other things, and we'll do some hand analysis from one of you or some of you, depends on how many hands you can give us for that. And yeah, we'll show you your leaks and already give you some really good advice to improve your play. Also, I talked a lot about different preflop charts. Here you can get them. You will learn how to play from every position at the table. We have it from we even have charts for every position and we have charts for defending what to defend from specific positions. So if you learn those charts, it's going to be really, really easy for you and you will just solve the preflop play. And also the 2 personal trainings, it's going to be with me or with Leo Don Leon. And yeah, we will discuss your leagues and we will try to build or we will build a plan for you and your future development with us. So that's it from my side. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed what I was what I was teaching you for today. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments or maybe have them right now. I will at least wait because of the delay for 1 or 2 more minutes. So therefore, just keep on talking and yeah, just what else you can do? You can subscribe our YouTube channel so you will never miss out on any of our nice videos. We are producing a lot of videos, if it's hand reviews, if it's um, educational videos about programs or some other things. We will show you some nice, some also some funny stuff about poker, some Twitch highlight clips and so on. And yeah, so you can find all that on YouTube. So subscribe us here and also follow us on our social media. We have a really funny Instagram account running, we have Facebook running, and Twitter as well, of course. And yeah, so that's it from my side today. Again, thanks for watching. Uh, I'm Marcus, MTT coach at Poker Academy, and that's it for today. See you guys next time.